Evelyn remembered the first time she felt the music move through her. She was just a child, no more than 6 or 7, when her father brought home a radio, one of those big wooden ones with the glowing dials. He placed it carefully in the living room, and when he turned it on, the house filled with sounds she had never heard before. Soft melodies, lively rhythms, voices that seemed to come from another world. While her parents sat quietly, sipping their tea, Evelyn couldn't help herself. Her little feet started to tap, her body swayed, and soon she was spinning, arms outstretched, lost in the magic of the music. Her heart felt light, her spirit free. But it didn't last long. "Stop that, Evelyn," her mother said sharply. "Girls shouldn't behave like that in front of others." Evelyn froze, her cheeks burning. She didn't understand what she had done wrong, only that something she loved so much was now something to be hidden. From that day on, she danced only when she was alone. In her room, behind closed doors, she would put on records and let herself go, imagining grand halls, sparkling lights, and elegant gowns. In her dreams, she wasn't just a little girl from a quiet town. She was a dancer, graceful and fearless. As she grew older, the world around her seemed to reinforce the message that her place was not in the spotlight. She was taught to be polite, modest, to avoid drawing attention. Dancing, especially in public, was for other girls, braver ones, bolder ones. Evelyn kept her love for it close, a secret tucked away like a precious keepsake. At school dances, she stood with her friends, giggling and chatting, but never stepping onto the floor. Even when boys asked, she would shake her head, pretending she didn't care. But she did. Every time she watched others dance, something inside her ached. Not with jealousy, but with longing. She wanted to know what it felt like to move without fear, to be seen and not shrink away. She wanted to know the joy of letting go. If this story is touching something in you, maybe you know that feeling too. Since you're still watching, maybe you should subscribe. Years passed, and Evelyn became a woman, still carrying that silent dream. She met Harold at church one Sunday. He was kind, steady, the kind of man who valued tradition and order. They courted, married, and settled into a life that was safe and predictable. Harold wasn't one for music or dancing. He preferred the quiet, and Evelyn, always eager to please, never pushed. She kept her records, though, and sometimes, late at night, when the house was still, she would put one on and let herself remember what it felt like to move. Just for a few minutes, in the darkness, she was free again. But the fear never left. Even after Harold passed, even after the children had grown and gone, Evelyn still believed that the time for dancing had passed, that some dreams were meant to stay just dreams. Until that invitation arrived, the one that would bring it all back. There were so many moments, scattered through the years, when Evelyn could have danced. Moments that, on the surface, seemed small, forgettable to anyone else, but to her, they lingered like quiet echoes. The first was at her cousin's wedding. She was barely 20, still adjusting to her new life as a wife, still trying to find her place in a world that seemed to expect her to be content with simply being present. The band played a slow, beautiful tune, the kind that made people hold each other close and sway gently under the soft lights. Harold sat beside her, sipping punch, his hand resting on his knee, completely uninterested. Evelyn watched the couples glide across the floor, some graceful, others awkward, but all of them fearless in their movement. She felt the music rise inside her, the familiar pull that had never really gone away. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at Harold, wondering if she dared ask him. But something in his expression, calm and unmoved, made her shrink back. She smiled instead, smoothing her dress, pretending she hadn't wanted it at all. There were other weddings, other parties. Times when friends and neighbors urged her, "Come on, Evelyn, just one dance." But she always had an excuse. Her feet hurt. She was tired. Maybe later. Deep down, she envied their freedom, their lack of self-consciousness. How did they do it? She wondered. How did they let themselves be seen like that? She would go home from those events with a strange emptiness, as if something precious had slipped through her fingers once again. Even at home, with her children, she held back. When they were young, they would dance in the living room, laughing and spinning, begging her to join. Sometimes she did, for a moment, just to see them smile. But as they grew older, she returned to watching, always watching, clapping from the side, her heart quietly aching. One night, not long after Harold had passed, Evelyn sat alone with a cup of tea, the radio playing softly in the background. A waltz came on, slow and haunting, and for the first time in a long while, she stood up. Her living room was dimly lit, the shadows stretching across the walls like silent partners. She took a few steps, tentative at first, then more sure, letting the music guide her. There was no one to see her, no one to judge. Just her and the melody. And as she moved, she felt the years melt away, felt the young girl inside her stretch and breathe again. She sat down after the song ended, her heart full and heavy all at once. Maybe this was enough, she thought. Maybe dancing alone was the only kind of dancing meant for her. But something inside her whispered no. Not yet. There was still time. And soon, something would happen that would make her believe it. The invitation came on a Tuesday, folded neatly among the usual mail of bills and advertisements. Evelyn almost missed it, almost threw it away with the rest of the papers she barely glanced at. But something about the envelope, the elegant handwriting, the soft cream color caught her eye. She opened it carefully, her fingers trembling just a little, and read the words printed in gold. You are cordially invited to the Golden Years Ball. A night of music, memories, and dancing. Her breath caught. Dancing. The words seemed to shimmer on the page, as if it had been written just for her. She read it again, slower this time, taking in every detail. The community center was hosting an event for seniors, a celebration of life, of joy, of moments not yet lived. There would be music, food, laughter, and dancing. She set the invitation on the table, staring at it as if it might disappear. Part of her heart leapt at the idea. The other part recoiled in fear. She hadn't danced in front of anyone in 80 years. What if she stumbled? What if people looked at her, judged her? What if she froze, just like all those other times? That afternoon, she sat by the window, the invitation still in her lap, and let the memories wash over her. All the chances she hadn't taken, all the nights she'd gone home wishing she had been brave. She thought of her mother's voice, still lingering after all these years, telling her to stay quiet, to stay small. And she thought of the girl she used to be, spinning in her room, dreaming of a moment that had never come. Maybe this was that moment. If you're still watching, maybe you've been waiting for a moment like that too. Maybe this story is for you. Subscribe, and let's keep believing in second chances together. Evelyn didn't make a decision right away. She carried the invitation around the house, setting it down, picking it up again, like it held more weight than paper should. She called her daughter that evening, mentioning it casually, as if it didn't matter. A dance, her daughter said, her voice warm. You should go, Mom. You'd love it. Evelyn smiled, but didn't answer. That night, she pulled out her old record player, the one she hadn't used in months. She placed a record on the turntable, one of her favorites, and as the music filled the room, she stood. Slowly, carefully, she began to move. Her steps were small, hesitant, but with each beat, she felt a little more sure. The fear was still there, but so was something stronger. Hope. As the song ended, she looked around the room, quiet and still. Maybe it was time to stop dancing alone. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late. The days leading up to the ball felt longer than usual, stretched by a mix of nervousness and quiet excitement that Evelyn hadn't known in years. The invitation stayed on her kitchen table, propped up like a reminder of something she still hadn't fully committed to. Every morning, she would glance at it, sip her tea, and wonder if she was really going to go through with it. Some days, the idea felt thrilling. The thought of music, of lights, of movement, stirred something deep inside her. Other days, the fear returned, whispering that it was foolish, that she would only embarrass herself. One afternoon, while sorting through her closet, Evelyn paused in front of an old dress she hadn't worn in decades. It was a soft blue, simple but elegant, with delicate lace along the sleeves. She had bought it years ago for a dinner party she never attended, still with the tag tucked inside. She held it up, the fabric cool against her fingers, and imagined what it would feel like to wear it now, at 80, standing under the lights, stepping onto the floor she had avoided her whole life. The mirror reflected someone older, yes, but not someone without dreams. She could still see that young girl behind her eyes, waiting, hoping. The day before the ball, Evelyn almost changed her mind. She sat in her favorite chair, the dress hanging nearby, and thought of all the reasons not to go. Her knees weren't what they used to be. She didn't know anyone who would be there. What if she walked in and couldn't take a single step? What if people stared? She was about to fold the dress away when the phone rang. It was her granddaughter, Lily. "Grandma, Mom told me about the dance. Are you going?" Evelyn hesitated. "I'm thinking about it." "You should," Lily said. "You've always loved dancing. I remember watching you in the kitchen when you thought no one was looking." Evelyn laughed softly. "I didn't think you noticed." "I did. And I always thought you looked beautiful." Her heart swelled, the fear softening just a little. "I don't know if I can." Lily's voice was firm, loving. "You can. And you'll be amazing." That night, Evelyn laid the dress out carefully, running her hand over the lace. She wasn't sure if she was ready. But maybe readiness wasn't what mattered. Maybe what mattered was simply showing up. The morning of the ball, the sky was clear, the air cool but not cold. She got dressed slowly, thoughtfully, taking her time with each button, each detail. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because of the dress, but because of the light in her eyes. This wasn't just about dancing. It was about claiming something she had denied herself for far too long. As she stepped out the door, her heart beat faster than it had in years. Tonight, she would stop watching. Tonight, she would dance. The hall was already alive with music and soft chatter when Evelyn arrived. The lights above sparkled like stars, casting a warm glow over the polished wooden floor that stretched out before her like a dream both familiar and distant. She stood at the entrance for a moment, her breath caught somewhere between awe and fear, taking in the scene. People her age, some older, some younger, were scattered in small groups, laughing, talking, some already swaying gently to the melody that floated through the room. No one seemed to notice her, and yet she felt as though every eye might turn at any moment. Her fingers clutched her small handbag, the same way she used to hold onto her nervous thoughts, tightly, protectively. She stepped inside, her feet making soft sounds against the floor, and found a chair near the edge of the room. From there, she could watch, just like she always had. The music was slow, a waltz she remembered from long ago, and couples moved gracefully in circles, their faces relaxed, their bodies flowing with ease. Evelyn's hands rested on her lap, her heart pounding in rhythm with the music, not from exertion, but from the quiet storm within her. She could leave. No one would notice. She had seen the room, felt the air, heard the music. That could be enough. It always had been before. But as she sat there, a woman approached her, smiling warmly. She was elegant, her silver hair pinned neatly, her dress shimmering just slightly under the lights. "Are you here alone, dear?" Evelyn nodded, her voice caught in her throat. "Yes." The woman's eyes softened. "It's a beautiful night to dance." Evelyn smiled politely, the familiar mask slipping into place. "I'm just watching." The woman didn't press. She simply nodded and returned to the floor, leaving Evelyn with her thoughts. The song changed, something livelier now, and laughter filled the air. Evelyn looked around, seeing joy in every corner, and wondered why she had kept herself from this for so long. The fear was still there, sitting beside her like an old friend, whispering doubts and reminding her of every moment she had hesitated before. But beneath it, something stronger stirred. She stood. Her knees trembled slightly, but she stood tall. The music swelled, and she took a step forward, then another, moving slowly toward the edge of the dance floor. No one was watching. Or maybe they were. It didn't matter anymore. A man nearby, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, saw her standing alone. "May I?" he asked, offering his hand. Evelyn hesitated, the weight of 80 years pressing down on her, and then, slowly, she placed her hand in his. As they stepped onto the floor, the lights above seemed to grow brighter, the music louder, her heart fuller. And as the first notes of the song wrapped around her, Evelyn let go. Of fear, of doubt, of time. She danced. The moment her feet touched the polished wood of the dance floor, something shifted deep inside Evelyn. It was as if every step she had never taken, every dance she had watched from the shadows, came rushing back to her all at once. The music wrapped around her, not just in her ears, but in her chest, in her hands, in the very air she breathed. Her partner held her hand gently, his other hand resting lightly on her back, guiding her not with force, but with the steady reassurance of someone who understood the importance of this moment, even if he didn't know the story behind it. At first, her movements were small, cautious, as if the ground beneath her might give way at any second. Her knees ached slightly, her breath quickened, but then something beautiful began to happen. The fear, the heavy cloak she had worn for so long, started to fall away. Bit by bit, step by step, she began to move more freely, more fully, until all she could feel was the rhythm carrying her forward. Her dress swayed gently with her, the soft fabric catching the light, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about who might be watching, what they might say, or whether she was doing it right. She was simply there, present, alive in a way she hadn't felt since she was a girl spinning alone in her bedroom. The years melted away, not gone, but softened, forgiven, as she let herself be seen. Around her, the room seemed to fade, the faces blending into a blur of colors and smiles, until all that remained was the music and the warmth of her own joy. Her partner smiled, giving her space to move, and Evelyn laughed, a light, clear sound that surprised even her. It wasn't loud or showy, but it was real, and it filled the space between them like a promise. When the song ended, there was a brief, perfect silence. Then, slowly, the room filled with gentle applause. It wasn't for a performance, it wasn't out of politeness. It was something deeper, a quiet recognition, a shared understanding of what it means to step beyond fear and into the light. Evelyn stood there, her chest rising and falling, her face flushed, her eyes shining. She looked around, meeting the eyes of others, and instead of shrinking, she stood tall, her heart wide open. Her partner bowed slightly, and she curtsied in return, her movements graceful, proud. As she returned to her seat, several people smiled at her, nodded, as if to say, "We saw you. We felt it." And for the first time, she believed it herself. She had done it. She had danced. Since you're still here, maybe you felt the kind of fear too. Maybe you're waiting for your moment. If this story touched something in you, maybe it's time to subscribe. You're not alone. The night air was cool as Evelyn stepped outside the hall, the sounds of the music still lingering in her ears like a soft echo of something too beautiful to let go. She paused for a moment beneath the stars, her hands resting gently at her sides, no longer clenched, no longer holding back. The world felt different now. Not louder, not faster, but fuller, as if something long missing had quietly returned to its place within her. She walked home slowly, not out of weariness, but to savor the feeling. Every step seemed lighter, as though the years she had carried on her back had lifted, just enough to let her breathe deeper. The fear that had followed her for so long, that had kept her silent, still, had finally loosened its grip. Back in her apartment, she slipped off her shoes, her fingers brushing against the soft lace of the dress she had almost never worn. She sat by the window, looking out over the quiet street below, the glow of the streetlights gentle, familiar. Her heart was still racing, but not from nerves, from something richer, from joy. She thought about all the moments she had let pass her by, the dances she had watched, the invitations she had declined, the dreams she had let settle into the background of her life. But tonight had changed something, not just because she danced, but because she realized that fear had never really protected her. It had only delayed her. She smiled softly, resting her head against the back of the chair. "I did it," she whispered. And she knew that it wasn't just about the dance. It was about choosing to live, even when it seemed too late, even when the voice inside said it wasn't for her. Because tonight proved something she had never dared to believe before, that courage doesn't have an age, and dreams don't expire. If she could speak to anyone still holding back, anyone still standing at the edge of their own dance floor, she would say this: don't wait as long as I did. Don't let fear steal the music from your life. It's never too late to step forward. Even if your feet are unsteady, even if your heart pounds, even if you think no one will notice. Because the moment you do, you'll realize you weren't waiting for the world to see you. You were waiting to see yourself. And now, I want to ask you, what's the dream you still carry? What fear have you held on to? And what would it feel like to let it go? If Evelyn's story touched you, if you've ever been afraid to take that step, leave a comment and share it with us. Like this video and join our family here, where we believe in second chances, in quiet bravery, and in the truth that it's never too late to live the life you've imagined. Because we're all dancing through life in our own way. And sometimes, the most beautiful dance comes when we finally decide we're ready. Because it's never too late to dream.